Well, good afternoon, White County. Don Strengthen here with you from the White County Office of Public Safety as we continue to bring you up to date on the latest information from the recent ice storm that we endured across White County. And we're going to talk about the potential for another messy weekend across White County. We'll get into that in just a few moments. But first, I just wanted to kind of update you on a couple of things. We just checked with Habersham Electric just a few moments ago, and their power outage count is down to 364. Which is just amazing that we're able to get so many people back online. That I know there's 364 meters that are still out, but you have to understand that at one point we were 82% loss of power grid in the height of this storm, and now the number's down to 364. Georgia Power tells us they're at 100% of those who can receive power. And that 364 for Habersham is most likely going to be poles and infrastructure that actually has to be replaced. That takes a little longer than just putting a line back up. And some of that 364 may also be those who cannot receive power. That would be those situations where the weatherhead has been ripped from the home or there's damage to the meter itself. So we're getting somewhere, though. We're in a lot better place than we were even yesterday. So we're looking good on the power restoration across White County. Our Red Cross shelter that was at the Park and Rec here in White County closed as of 4 o'clock this afternoon. We had 3 remaining people in the shelter, and they got power back at their home this morning. And they have now left the shelter, so the shelter is now closed. And we're told that White County school system will run tomorrow on a 2-hour delay. So that's going to put a lot of people back out there on the roads tomorrow, and that's fine. But people understand you need to be extremely careful. There's still a lot of debris beyond the white lines on a lot of roads in White County. So that debris is right there at the edge of the roadway. So you've really got to pay attention and drive with care. Slow down when you're approaching those areas where we still have debris on the side of the roadway. There's also a number of roads across the county that still have those, what we referred to as leaners and hangers, trees that maybe are hanging over roadways. And they're getting to those through priority. In other words, those roads that have trees that are hanging low enough to potentially make contact with a high vehicle are going to be treated first, and then they'll work out to the others. So, if you're going to be driving on those secondary surface roads that have a lot of leaners and hangers, be extremely careful traveling in those areas. We are in the process of getting toward the end of recovery from the ice storm. For the most part, there will be some areas that's going to take a little while longer. But unfortunately, we have to turn our attention to the next weather system that will be in here maybe Friday night into Saturday that could cause some problems across White County. There are some uncertainties about what is going to take place this weekend, just as there was uncertainties last weekend with the ice storm. There are a couple of things that we're very confident about coming up to this weekend, however. This weekend is going to be cold. It is going to be long duration cold. We're going to have temperatures at times just as cold as what we saw last weekend. Beginning on Friday night, a low pressure system is going to dip down from the northwest and could potentially bring some frozen precipitation across North Georgia. Now, you're looking at 3 possible scenarios on the screen. And though that doesn't look like much of a distance between those 3 different possibilities, it's going to make all the difference in the world as to what we receive here in White County, if we receive anything at all. So let's talk about scenario 1. This is a Carolina focused snowfall. If that low pressure system dips across eastern Tennessee and then down across extreme northwest upstate South Carolina, then the heavier snows will be across South Carolina. If we get that second scenario, which is that track there in the middle, depicted by the blue L, if that low pressure system dips down over maybe Chattanooga and then comes down to around Dalton and then maybe south of Atlanta and over toward Brunswick, that is going to be an increased snow risk here in the state of Georgia. And if the third scenario were to verify, then that would come across North Alabama, down across East Alabama, and then into South Georgia. And that could potentially bring a significant snow to a larger location across Georgia. We're talking really from East Alabama, West Georgia, all the way back up into South Carolina, could see snow under scenario number 3. And so this is going to be a very, very difficult forecast going into this weekend. And I know it seems as though every time we have a threat for winter weather, you see all kinds of stuff on Facebook, and then the weather forecast changes by the minute leading up to the event. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is in the South. It's extremely hard to predict. And in this particular case, it's going to be even more difficult to tell you exactly what's going to happen, because this is not a typical setup for snow across Georgia. We have a bomb low that's going to come down across the southeastern United States. It may kick up a secondary surface low in the Gulf of Mexico that could run across North Florida and then up the Atlantic coast, or that secondary surface low may form off the coast of South Carolina, along with the high level low that's coming down across the southeastern United States. And the exact placement of that low coming from the northwest is going to determine whether we get a surface low in the Gulf or in the Atlantic. A lot of variables here. But the one thing I want you to understand, it really doesn't matter how much snow we end up with. If we receive any snow at all, it's going to freeze and accumulate immediately. This is not going to be like the typical snow across North Georgia, where we have that wet, sticky snow, and maybe it snows for 2 or 3 hours and there's no accumulation. The ground has to cool off, and then we start getting accumulation. This is going to be one of those, anything that falls from the sky is going to accumulate because the ground is already going to be frozen. So we could go from no travel issues to significant travel issues very quickly, sometime late Friday night into Saturday morning, and the precipitation could continue for 6 to 12 hours throughout the day on Saturday into Saturday afternoon. Then our temperature is not going to get above freezing until Monday afternoon. And even then, it's only going to be for an hour or two. It really could be Tuesday or even Wednesday of next week before we get any significant thawing from this cold air that's headed our way for this weekend. So if we do get snow accumulation, and it does cause dangerous and hazardous driving conditions across the county, it's going to be long-lived. It's not going to go anywhere quick. Typically we get a 4 or 5 hour snow. It's beautiful. Let's go play. Let's have fun. And then the next day it's gone. That's not what we're looking at here. This could be long-lasting, well into next week. So we still have a lot of questions to answer. The forecast will get fine-tuned multiple times between now and this weekend. I just want to give you a heads up that it is certainly possible that we could have some really bad driving conditions around here starting late Friday night and continuing really all the way into the first part of next week. So if you haven't already prepared for cold weather and the potential of being in your home for 2 or 3 days, as bad as I hate to mention that possibility, it does exist. So make sure that you are stocked up and ready to go. just in case we have to do this again this upcoming weekend. Now, I'm not suggesting that we go rob the stores of all the milk and bread just yet. I'm just letting you know that, this time tomorrow we'll have a little more information, and certainly by Friday morning we'll feel a lot more confident about the forecast. It is going to be cold. There is no two ways about that. And we're talking prolonged cold. So make sure you have adequate heat. Make sure you are prepared for the possibilities of not being able to drive for a couple of 2 or 3 days if we were to get significant accumulation on the roadways from potential snow. The other good thing I can tell you is this will not be an ice storm. There will be no ice involved in this whatsoever. This will all be snow, but it's going to be at a different ratio. Normally, when we get snow, it's like at a 10-to-1. In other words, a tenth of an inch of liquid equates to 1 inch of snow. In this particular setup, because the atmosphere is going to be so cold, it's going to most likely be somewhere around 20-to-1, meaning that 1 inch of liquid would give us 20 inches of snow. Now, there are a few models out there that's showing snow accumulation of that much across South Carolina, even into eastern Georgia. We don't see an inch of liquid with this storm. We're probably more along the lines of an eighth or less, which could give us up to 2 to 3 inches, depending. But again, we don't know that yet. It just depends on where that low forms and where it tracks. So a lot of variables here. Keep that in mind when you're looking at all of the, ominous graphics that you're seeing out there on social media. Take it with a grain of salt, and join us again at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and we'll give you more information as we get it from the Weather Service. But there's a checklist of some of the things that you can do. Yeah, pipes are going to be a big deal here, folks, because, normally if you just drop down into the 20s for 2 or 3 hours at night and we warm back up into the 40s or 50s during the day, that's not that dangerous for pipes. But when you talk about being below freezing and for several hours, way below freezing for 60 plus hours, that's going to take out a lot of pipes. So make sure that you protect your pipes and be careful with that. One other thing I want to remind you about, you see it scrolling at the bottom of the screen there. We are encouraging you that if you have damage from last weekend's ice storm, to please go to our website and report that damage. Now, we're talking about private property damage to your home, your vehicle, your roadway. If it's a private roadway, these are the things we want to know about. And you go to whitecountyga.gov/self-report and fill it out. It's a very short, simple form to fill out. Be sure you give us a contact information there because we want to also talk to you about some other things, and we may call you. So be sure and do that. That helps us tremendously get a good snapshot of exactly how widespread our damage is across White County. So that'll wrap it up for today's report. We will be back, and we plan on continuing our 4 p.m. briefings here on White County Public Safety through the weekend as we deal with yet another round of winter weather across Northeast Georgia. Be sure that you share with your friends on your news feed our live broadcast. Make sure you tell your friends and family about us and have them come follow us and like us and watch us on Facebook and on YouTube. You're helping us get the word out there to our community. You guys have been phenomenal through this whole thing. You've listened to every word that we've said, and you've taken our advice. And right now, we're not aware of any major injuries or no fatalities from last weekend's ice storm, and we want to keep it that way moving into the potential snowstorm this coming weekend across North Georgia. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon with the latest right here on White County Public Safety.